Incoming! Twisting your mind and smashing your dreams.
Oh, metal. That's fucking metal face.
Hey, what's up? This is Ice-T, and you're listening to The Mosh Pit with Damien on 103.2 Dublin City FM. Alright? I hope you got that, bitch.
103.2 Dublin City FM. This is the Mosh Pit. I am back at Troubadour Studios. This time, however, I'm joined by Elevation Falls. Say hello and introduce yourselves.
I'm Hazel, I'm the lead singer.
I'm Chris, I'm one of the guitarists.
I'm Alex, I am the new drummer.
I'm Gabriel, I'm the bass player.
I'm Dara, I'm the lead guitarist.
There's always a
We're
fight.
both, there's two lead guitarists in this band, let's get that straight.
They're both shit.
I love this. I'll needle on that later if I have.
Chris was just being modest. That's it.
Tell me how the band got to this point.
Go on, Gabriel.
Go on, Hazel.
Go on, Gabriel.
Me?
I love the two
Where
of
did it
us.
start?
Yeah.
I shouldn't answer that.
You should. No, you should.
I
Well-
don't think listeners care.
I was a solo artist as just a singer-songwriter, and I decided I wanted to get a band together. So we held auditions back in 2012, and out of those auditions, one of the members we got is Gabriel, who has gone from being on drums to being on guitar to being on bass, and he's always done backing vocals. So there you go.
Yeah.
He's still here.
He's not a good singer, but put him on backing vocals.
That's right. Drown him on.
We have him for his looks.
Who needs to know the lyrics when you can mumble in the right pace?
Yeah.
Actually, true.
That's Gabriel. Gabriel's been in this band for how many years now? Was it 6 years?
I don't know any of the lyrics.
And you know no lyrics.
Mumble it in the right harmony and you're all good.
You're
That's
fine.
it.
Absolutely fine.
That's why we're professional.
Know the words.
So there we go. You can still be
Yeah.
successful without knowing the words, so it's
What a
fine.
man.
After that, we went through a load of years of trying to find our sound, writing music, building up a reputation, playing all the venues in Dublin, getting outside of Dublin. And then we found Chris about 4 years ago now, I think it was. And he played
Homeless on the street.
homeless on the street.
Still in
He was
nappies.
Picked up
nappy.
from the street.
That's my X Factor story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, he is the baby of the band, in all fairness.
Yeah.
So,
Fell
but
from the bus.
fell. Anyway, we got Chris, and then after that we found Dara
On the
and
street as well.
on the street as well.
Down the
Literally.
road from my corner.
At least I was busking and not living in a box.
Oh.
Well,
And then-
same thing.
And then recently we found Alex there only a couple of months back. So the band has had the kind of core members for at least 4 years at this stage. The core members have been there. And then pretty much now is when, because we've released the album and everything, that's made us just completely push it all forwards. So that's really where we are now. But we've really found our feet in the last couple of months since the album was released.
Now, everybody hates labels and comparisons, so I'll keep this short. You kind of have a proto sound, which is kind of where I would gravitate. It's a very classic sound.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
God.
Okay, God!
Well, that's a really good answer, right?
Well, we all came from God.
We are
Hail
God's
Mary.
children.
I think it's a combination from our background.
Yeah,
in terms
it's
of
like
music.
everybody has their own inspirational background. That created the foundations. Every one of our backgrounds was kind of interlinked in terms of the era and what we were inspired by, I suppose, isn't that true?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
And then we kind of did our best shot at recreating something that would have been done 25 years ago, but with our own most
Modern
original
twist.
twist on it.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
But yeah, no, I think that does suit us. I always say that we're classic rock with a modern twist, because I feel that music today...
An original modern twist.
Original
It's
modern
ours.
twist.
Yeah.
I feel that music today is very processed. Everything's processed, and I mean absolutely everything. So we want to
I'm
be
like
able...
baby.
The level of intelligence. Yeah, kind of like Baby Bells, yeah. So we didn't want to be Baby Bells. We wanted to be the real mature cheddar. That's what we wanted to be.
I wanted to be Marks and Spencer's €8 block of cheddar.
Oh, I agree.
That's
Oh, I agree.
You know.
Very nice.
Why
Good
does all of
choice.
our interviews revert back to food?
But the point behind all of
Peppercorn
that
works the best. death.
Yeah,
So-
it's kind of great.
The point behind all of that is our main thing that we wanted to do was have a classic sound, which we feel no band is really got at the moment. Like, there are some bands that are trying to reach out to that sound, but they're not really hitting it on the mark. Like, as I said, the two guitarists in our band, they're both like Thin Lizzy heads. They go back to the classic sounds, and I think that really comes in. And also trying to do that classic sound with a female vocal is very different as well. So more like having Hart and Wilson kind of sound coming in with it, as well as the dual guitars. So
There's like a massive focus on trying to be original.
yeah,
Because it's very easy for people to say, oh, dual guitarists, and we're both, lead guitarists, and we do harmonies every now and again, and the people straight away jump, oh, that's very Lizzy, especially because we're from Dublin, like, do you know what I mean, we're Irish. It's like what Hazel said, there's some bands that are not really doing their own thing, but there are bands that are doing the classic rock thing, but they're just really mimicking things that have already been done.
Yeah.
Whereas we're just trying our best to put our own original spin on it, do you know what I mean? So that you can't find any other album on the internet that's gonna sound like us. That's what we're trying to do, really.
yeah.
Isn't it?
What we want is, I feel that back in like the 80s and the 90s, there were the bands that were successful were the ones you could listen and say, oh, I know that's Guns N' Roses, I know that's Heart, I know. You could pick them out by listening to their sound just in 2 seconds. And I
know
think
that's Whitesnake's
Whitesnake,
Juicy Tone.
exactly. You know that from a mile away, and that's my point. We like, even there are modern day bands that like if you hear Royal Blood, you know that's Royal Blood. You know that's we want to be a band where you hear our tone or the drums or the bass or whatever, you hear it and you know that's us. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve, is have our original sound that nobody else has, and you know it's us. I think that's the main thing we're going
It's
for.
like what you said, Royal Blood. So not like you know them straight away.
You know them straight away.
Because they're so original.
Yeah.
They're modern, but they're so fucking original.
Exactly.
And that's what you want.
Yep, that would be the sound.
I
Oh, Belinda's here as well.
Yeah, I was just interject and say songwriting. No, songwriting was pivotal in the whole thing as well. That's strong songwriting. Not
Yeah,
just go
that's-
on a battered matchbox and keep
Yeah.
repeating the same old thing.
That's the thing. When bands, a lot of bands, they'll become famous for like one song or something, and then they won't have follow-ups. They won't have other music they've written. They won't have songs in the back burner that they could bring out. Like, we have enough songs in the back burner. If we wanted, we work on them, and then we could do another album straight away. That's the point, is that we pride ourselves on having soulful songwriting, having catchy riffs, and being able to produce a song that sounds like us.
To the songwriting, how much is it an individual and how much is it a shared creative process?
It depends on the song.
It does depend on the song. I think a lot of the time, like, the main people who songwrite in this band would be me, Chris, and Belinda, our manager. One of us might bring something in and the other one helps work on it. But, like, for example, the other day, Chris brought a riff in, and then I did some writing to it and Belinda did some writing to it. Then we brought it into the band and they all wrote to it. Like, Gabriel added some really cool breakdown sections. You know, so it's like, there's always a core, I believe, that have the writing in check. Like, I know Chris basically wrote nearly fully 2 songs on the last album. You wrote Take Me Back and Cheating Woman.
Yeah.
With, of course, there was a couple of helpings from everybody else, but like, he wrote the chorus of those songs. So I think it is overall, we all have our own thing that we put on it. Everybody puts their own style on it. Like, when you hear Dara do a solo, you know he's written it. You know that's a Dara solo. You know it's a Chris solo. You know that the rhythm was definitely written by Gabriel. And now, well, Alex has now got to show up and he's got to do his job now. He's got to show off now that he can do it. So he's under pressure. But
He can do it though.
He can do it.
can do
He
it.
can do it. But everybody adds their own little bit of flavour to the songwriting, and I think that helps a lot because we all are different. We all have similar styles, but they are very different at the same time. And I think that comes into play a lot in our songwriting. People hear that.
And you know, that's why I love like our guitar sounds as well, because it's 2 kind of very different tones. So it's not kind of like when you.
It's not like 2 slashes in the band. It's not
No.
like you will never hear the guitar work on the album. And if you kind of moderately know the band a bit and know me and Chris, you'll never say to yourself, I'm not sure who
Who's
that
doing
was.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of always know.
I always
Who's
feel,
doing what.
I always feel like a band that does that is Alter Bridge. I love Alter Bridge to bits, and you can always tell when it's Miles doing a solo or when it's Tremonti doing a solo. You can always, I can always tell when there's a difference in the solos. And I really, when I heard they have a song called Blackbird, which we cover, when I heard that, I really wanted that, where you could hear the difference in the solos and stuff, especially on the album we've just released. I really wanted that, and you can definitely hear who's doing what solos and who's written what solos, and that's a big part of it for me, having two separate.
I think that's the other thing that's a rarity with younger people, and I can say this because I'm like nearly in my grave at this stage. The fact that all the guys in the band have a huge understanding of past musical artists, both across a number of genres, and all of that feeds into that understanding of putting stuff into modern music, which I think a lot of younger people often don't have these days because they don't study, they haven't had that background. But in all of these people's cases, their parents have been very involved in music and given them that background to feed into their current existence.
Yeah.
There's a unique background for everybody in this band.
True.
And there's something I will say massively contributes.
Oh yeah.
We were brought together in really fucking odd and unthought out ways. It was really random. In fairness.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
well, no, that's a good story actually to bring up. Dara actually auditioned for the band, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. And he was in the band for a week, and then he couldn't stay in it because his mum didn't want him travelling and all this kind of stuff because he lived far away.
I was doing my leaving cert.
He was doing his leaving cert as well.
That was kind of like, you know.
So basically then we had to let him go after a week of him being in the band. Funnily enough, the person who came in to replace him was Chris.
Yeah, because I was better. No, I'm joking.
We had no choice.
I was their sloppy seconds.
But because Dara could not be in the band, we found Chris, and then Dara, we actually bumped into Dara at a gig about 2 years ago now, and we said
2.5 years.
2.5 years, and we said to him, look, would you like to audition for the band again? Because Chris has now moved up to the main guitar, so if you want to go on
and I was kind of like, look, I won't even audition, I'll just join. And it just kind of went from there.
But that just shows you how it's kind of in a weird circumstance, because if you had stayed, Dara wouldn't have got Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you would have missed out on some juicy tonnage.
Yeah. There was a bit of competition when I was about to join the band, and I was up against some great competitors, but you know, we managed to find the sound that was right for the band.
When Gabriel came in, he actually auditioned
for bass.
Yeah, Gabriel originally auditioned for bass, and then I think the guy who was trying out on drums at the time, he went out for a smoke, and whilst he was out having a smoke, Gabriel jumped on the drums and started playing, and all of us were there like, we just have to put him on the drums, that's it.
Yeah.
He's a bit shit on the bass, right?
Come over here, stealing our drummers.
But that's the thing, it never seemed to just be very smooth in that sense. It was always something. It was
abrupt.
Abrupt, yeah. Always a missing part, but we're grand now.
The Linda Dictionary out.
Yeah.
So we have the basics of the creative process there.
Yeah.
How do the songs change when you present them to an audience?
It does change.
Well, I think, it does and it doesn't. You see, I think we try, the songs that we record, I think we want them, when we perform them live, we want them to sound just as good or better. I think that's the difference.
No, I think that the question would be like what I was trying to answer.
When you
first write a song and you play for the very first time to an audience, does it change through time? And I do think it changes for better.
Well, I think we get more comfortable.
Everyone gets to add their own twist to it. Like, you know, and there's always like, you know, you write a song. Even songs that we've recorded, like, you know, we recorded songs that we hadn't really played live. Like, we went in, recorded them.
Dream of Me and Cheat Woman, we never played.
You know, and it's not uncommon for some bands to write new songs, go out and play them and say, this is a new song we're writing, and then go back when I finish touring and record them.
Yeah.
But the longer and longer that we had our new songs, like, the more time we had to add our own new twists in, the more comfortable we felt saying, oh, fuck, I can do this here, or I can add this bit in here, and then that's when it starts getting really original.
Yeah.
You know, and we start bringing our own talents to the table.
Yeah.
At this point in the interview, I'd just like to talk about how I'm really upset that my foot switch is not working. Man.
Just so everybody knows.
That's what happens
Just
when
saying, you know, I only got my new pedal board and I was like, fuck yeah, my guitar setup is finally complete, and then your fucking foot switch breaks. First world problems. You know. It's upsetting.
But Overdrive are one of the few actually who are making an effort. We know them, like Steve and Oren and Kev, all of them. Well, he's jet rocker, but he's also in there. But yeah, we know all of them, and that whole metal scene, like that. I was only chatting to Oren about this. That like we don't fit into that metal scene. The sound the band doesn't. And but still,
not yet. Anyway,
we can see. Not to
I'll start getting that very angry on stage.
but I see what they're doing, and I see how much more supportive that whole area is.
So I'm more about the inclusion, and there's a lot of bands like yourself. I was only in here 3 weeks ago interviewing Myth for the exact same reason. You know, there's that little crevice where it's too heavy for the mainstream
And not heavy enough.
not heavy enough for the elitists.
Yeah.
And I slag off the elitists any chance I get. So
Yeah.
that's.
Well,
But
that was a good
the
thing.
reason calling it the mosh pit was if it's heavy enough for you to mosh to it, I'll play it. That's.
That was a good thing about Ghost recently. Ghost getting into the mainstream.
It's after breaking
Yeah.
a bit of a fucking
Barrier.
ice
Yeah.
barrier. It's like you're getting through. To
But
the
for
wall.
me, Ghost have always just used the metal aesthetics. I always thought they sounded like the Killers or indie bands that I grew. You know, there was never. For me, I would metal really.
They're not crazy heavy.
Like you listen to Squarehammer, that's a pop song. I don't care. I don't care where you come from. Squarehammer is a pop song. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The beats, the melodies.
It's just like what you said there. The aesthetic was
The
metal.
aesthetic
But the
is heavy
thing is
metal.
now, like aesthetic is such a popular.
They
It's
probably
such
got-
a. It's such a
They've
massive
probably
thing in
done the
music.
perfect
now,
combination
Yeah.
then of the aesthetics and the sound that's good for the mainstream.
But my other argument against which genre elitist a lot is
It's
because
a lot-
literally it's an arbitrary label,
it's-
so it really is about perception.
It's the modern things like people
Yeah.
are trying to say now. That's like what you said. If you reach that bar back in the day,
Yeah.
you're heavy metal. But it's like now, if you sounded like Alice Cooper, people would be like, "No,
Oh,
man,
you're
you're
pop."
light. Yeah, you're poppy.'re
Yeah.
light rock. Like, do you know what I mean? But it's like when people now, like when you listen to Holy Diver, like the Dio album,
Exactly.
you know, it's especially because it's
Nowadays
a good,
you wouldn't say it's heavy.
it's a
No,
good
it's not.
comparison. It's a good
Yeah.
it's a good comparison because Killswitch Engage came out with a cover of Holy Diver, and you're like, fuck, that hits hard. That's heavy. But back in the 80s, like Dio, like that was fucking
super heavy.
that was heavy, man.
Yeah.
That was fucking. They were iconic. Do you know what I mean? That album was iconic, and people now would be like, "Nah, that's classic rock," but it's not. That is what heavy metal was back then. Do you know what I mean?
International touring, getting out of Ireland. How did it start? Where did you go? Give me some good road stories.
We've been to.
Oh, Chris can take this one away big time.
See, my issue was
And Gabriel.
I don't remember a lot of our road trips.
Yeah, maybe Gabriel should answer this question.
Yeah,
He's got the best answers, right? It's like,
I mean,
It's like Osborne when he asks a question. I'm Sharon.
like if we're to sum up, like a lot of our road trips, it's just getting really fucked up and then playing gigs. It's fun.
well, now let's talk about the place that we've been in.
So Croatia. That was
Croatia was the biggest crowd that we played for, about 2,000 people that we
2,000.
played.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I was back in the guitar back then, and
That was in Osijek.
Yeah,
Osijek,
Osijek.
the UFO festival in Osijek in Croatia. That was great.
I was very upset because I didn't have a Les Paul. I was playing off a Fender, and I'm not a fan.
Yeah, we
Just saying.
couldn't bring our instruments over with us because it was too expensive. So we actually at the time, our drummer was from Osijek, and I think it was his granddad or somebody,
his friend.
somebody
Lent.
somebody
It was his
owned a music store, and he lent us some instruments
Guitar,
from it. I think.
bass, yeah.
But that was definitely one of those interesting trips because I think the worst thing that we did, which was we learned, was the night before the gig. We all went on a severe bender, and I mean...
Oh, don't tell me about that.
The toilet's my fucking foot switch is broken.
Wait, well, just let Dara leave the room. Hang on.
Dara's not a parent.
Yeah, my foot switch is broken. I'm just saying.
So yeah, an absolute severe bender the night before the gig.
Do you remember the way you came back home?
I can't remember how I came back home. That's how bad it was. I remember you two ending up in a toilet with a girl.
Peeing in there.
You were peeing in the ditch.
The ditch? What ditch?
He can't
Like
remember. That happened.
We're in Croatia.
Right, that was Croatia.
Can you please tell them the story, the main story from Croatia that was like the stupidest thing that you had to do in Croatia?
Oh yeah, you got a love bite.
No. Yeah, that. I mean, in Croatia, when we were there, the night before a gig I made, he went and he got a hickey off a girl.
Oh, yeah.
And the
It
next,
looked like Mike Tyson knocked me in the fucking neck.
it wasn't a little one. It was it's fucking half and throat kind of thing.
It looked like someone was throwing plums at me.
So the next day, he woke up. He had this big thing on his neck, and we were like, "Dude, there's loads of newspapers, photographers, all this kind of thing." I was like, "What are we gonna do?" So we had to get Belinda, our manager, had to get the makeup out, try and cover up as much as can. So on stage, any of the pictures from that gig you see online of Chris, he's got a big old hickey covered up on his neck.
Yeah.
And we were all so worried that it was going to sweat off on stage, and all you'd see was this big bruise just appear, and we were like, "Oh no!"
That actually fucking hurt as well.
Really?
Yeah, that wasn't fun.
But that, and then that was in Croatia. There was another incident in Croatia where we were driving down the road, and he'd stick his head out the window and shout "Gee." Just that everybody...
At the locals, just, you know, buying their red milk, and then all of a sudden I go by, "Gee!" Remember the ghee sauce as well.
Oh, that was in Manchester.
Yeah, that was Manchester.
So the game is, you have to go into Subway, wherever you are, and say to them, with a straight face, completely straight, if you smile you lose, you have to say, "Do you do ghee sauce?" And then they'll be like, "Ghee sauce?" Wherever we are.
Tell them the place that was stayed in Manchester.
Oh, the big church place.
Yeah, when we were in Manchester, we actually stayed in a converted church. That's what we stayed in.
We just went into a church and
Moment of
converted
silence for all the altar boys.
Other stories. When we went to Glastonbury, we...
Oh, I remember. Oh, no, wait, sorry.
When we went to Glastonbury, we had the pub that we played in had a lock-in, and we ended up staying till about 7 or 8 in the morning.
I ate all that poor fucker's donuts.
So basically we got so drunk. By the end of the night, they had cleaned up all the glasses, you know, the half-full glasses, so put them on the bar. I was drinking them. I didn't care. I didn't know where they came
You're
from.
a scum.
Yeah, that happened, and then Chris. No, shut up, you.
Yeah.
Chris ended up getting so pissed drunk he collapsed on a table, and they were cleaning up. I think they were putting stale donuts that they left out in the day. They put them on the table beside him. He wakes up slightly, takes a bite out of one, and then head first into the donuts.
John.
And that was the way he ended up. That
I got told stories from that little trip that we did.
The other story, now this is a local story, it's from Ireland. We went down and we did a raffle, I think a gig down in Sligo we went to.
Oh, and we won the Pope.
We won a picture of the Pope. That was definitely one of the highlights. It is now still in my kitchen. The Pope is still in my kitchen.
The Pope is praising
with as much meaning as he first meant.
But I think the best part was Dara hanging him out the window saying that the Pope will judge you for your sins at 4 a.m. as we were coming back from Sligo, driving past Whelan's, going down Wexford Street.
It'll show you how much of a grip the church still has on some people, because some people were just walking on the street, you know, pissed, enjoying it. What? Oh shit!
Hanging this
some
now.
people
It's
really were taking it seriously.
It wasn't even a small picture. No, but it was a full.
Framed.
Full framed.
Framed photo.
Yeah, especially when you're locked and you see like a 3x4 foot painting of the fucking Pope looking at you. You know, it was a very good painting, mind the person who.
Lots of piss people were looking at. You know, he's back.
Yeah.
Or the pub we were playing, should I say? It was a great gig.
Yeah.
But they were very, very accommodating. And how so? That was because they let us have an open bar. May I say that led to
about €500 worth of drinking.
Yes, it was not good. The last thing I remember was walking away with 4 double Jaeger bombs.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then absolutely assaulting my mom's carpet when I got home. And it wasn't good. Let me say that was a cringy carpet.
I didn't need Charlotte.
But somehow, in the middle of that journey on the way home,
which means somehow,
an old member of the band, I said, "Holy fuck, Belinda, there's a UFO." And we hopped out of the car. We genuinely seen a UFO.
Yeah.
I don't know, you didn't see it.
It was you two, because
Yeah.
he was too busy. He was
Me and you, we seen it, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was fucked
Hang
over
on, he was struggling up a hill trying to pee.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the old drummer at the time. He just fell down the hill. That was great.
Yeah.
it was just such a good night, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but me and Gabriel seen the UFO. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna put that out there.
I was filming it at the
We
time. I have a
just
video
showed
of
the
this.
Yeah.
pictures from that night
Yeah,
a while ago.
we firmly believe.
Hashtag
you
Men
know.
in Black.
There's no way we're the only creatures in this universe. But that, to say the very least, that was a very eventful night.
Let's get with the recording process. How you pick the songs for the album, you know, the artwork and the putting together of everything till you have a shiny disc in your hand.
I think that when we went to the studio, we didn't have every single song that we
No,
worked
we
on
did.
to
We
record.
wrote
We
like
had like
3 songs
7
there.
or 8.
Yeah, we wrote 3 or 4 of the songs
Yeah.
whilst we were
Yeah,
there.
We wrote
Like-
like 4 or 5 songs
Yeah.
while we were
A
recording.
third of the
Yeah.
album was done while recording the album.
Yeah.
Something we'd advise against in
Yeah.
the future or for any other band that wants to record.
No, like I know for a fact, Cheating Woman was
Vultures.
Cheating Woman, Vultures,
Zombie.
Yep.
Dream of Me. All of these songs were completely written.
He asked the second part of the question, which is basically like the design of the album now.
Yeah, you go
Right?
ahead, Gabriel.
Okay.
We put a big penis on our album.
Shut up.
Sorry.
Let Gabriel answer this seriously.
Well,
We
you
need.
would have.
I fucking.
You would.
Well, there was
You
one
would've-
big piece.
That would be.
It was his idea actually to put a tea stain
Good.
on it.
Yeah.
So,
I
so we
don't
got
know.
we got a guy to like paint ourselves, and
Belinda contacted a man who's an artist and said, "Can you draw up the band as kind of like fantasy versions of themselves?" So he drew up the fantasy version of ourselves, and we decided to put that as the album cover because we really, really liked it. And I think that's really, we stuck with that idea. We were trying to decide what we wanted, what would represent the album. Do we want to put an army on the front of it, like Armies Rising? Do we want to do something? We weren't sure at the time, but we thought, well, we're artistic, let's show the fantasy side. A lot of our music is based off life and dealing with different situations. And I suppose we wanted to put our faces on it to say, there is people behind the music and here we are, kind of thing. Give a face to the music. That's what we wanted. And I really like that it's kind of like the Alice in Wonderland edge kind of thing to it, because when we did the first ever music video we ever did was Fantasy. And the woman who directed it, Karen Pritzel, she did a kind of fantasy vibe, Alice in Wonderland thing at the table. We were all sitting at a table with masks on. It's all on YouTube, which I haven't watched in a long time because I don't want to.
Support the band.
Support the band.
Lead singer, I don't like her.
But anyway,
Fuck that.
I always really liked that kind of concept with us, so I think it's kind of nice. 6 odd years ago we did Fantasy, and that was the music video we released where it was kind of fantasy like Alice in Wonderland. So then it kind of connects onto the cover of this What Will Be album, which I think was really nice, and it was almost bringing us back to our roots.
The songs and the influences coming from life, why add the fantasy element? Why not go gritty and real instead?
I think, well, this is my personal view. I wouldn't know about the guys, but my personal view is when life is annoying, or when stuff gets pissy, or whatever you're dealing with, I always, I know it sounds stupid, I turn to Disney films, I turn to movies in general. I love
It's the
movies.
circle of life.
Yeah, exactly. I turn to music. I turn to things where I can almost go into my own head, my own world, my own fantasy. And I think when we all have written songs, etc., we've always wanted it that people don't feel like they're alone dealing with their own situations, dealing with the problems they've dealt with in their life. And I think the idea of going into this fantasy world is really nice. I like the idea of almost being able to escape when listening to music, watching films, etc., doing art, whatever you're into, your hobbies. And I think that's why we kind of went with the fantasy thing. We didn't want to be dead serious all the time, because
I think there's an element of reality about it, because some of it's a commentary on the world and the state of the world and the state of the people in the world and people's life.
But I do like the kind of fantasy aspect to it, and it's, as I said, it's kind of funny. Our first song that we ever wrote was called Fantasy, so it was it's a nice breakaway from the world. As I said, I think people do that when they want to escape. They listen to music, they watch movies, and I like the fantasy aspect with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree. I wouldn't turn to Disney.
Yeah, we know that.
Because I just don't really watch Disney, to be quite honest. I just like to think that it's a kind of, when things are shit, you like to revert to the fantasy thing in your head that just makes you basically make some other bullshit up, and you go, yeah, I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah.
So that's that.
It's an escape.
Yeah.
Then
It's
you
an
wake up
escape.
with
It's
a
just an
hangover.
outlet.
So when you released the album,
Yeah.
how did people receive it?
Oh, we did.
It's been very
It was
well
really
so
because
far.
we've been building up for so long that and when we did release it, people were like, "Wow, this is actually." Compared to the last album that we released, which was Origins, which was made up of a loads of different songs that have been done over the
A
while,
different lineup.
different lineups. This was all just one lineup recorded in there. Everybody was there, and I think when we finally released it, people were like, "This is such a united sound," and this again, I think they felt. You know this is Elevation Falls. This is Elevation Falls. You can hear that throughout the entire album. And what we always had that trouble with trying to find our sound, what suits us, yada yada yada. And in this album, you can hear what we found, and that we have a bluesy aspect, but then also we always will have that songwriting aspect where we can have very soulful, emotional songs, but then we can also have the very gritty, raunchy songs with great riffs and brilliant solos. And I think when we did release it, people loved that. They loved that there was a contrast in our music, but you knew it was all us.
Somebody's
I think
really enjoying some double bass drum downstairs.
I think that we also like finally released something that's like a full piece of art. Like before we were like releasing pieces of things,
Yeah.
and now we've finally brought something that you could listen from
Start to finish.
start to finish, and you could go through moods of like a bluesy one and a slower one and a heavier one, and you can go through like this kind of like
Build a massive picture.
And it tells
Yeah,
a story as well, which I think
Yeah.
is really nice, is that each one of the songs has a story behind it that inspired it, that came from one of the band members, and then it can connect to other people who are going through a similar issue. And I think people like that about our music as well. I know for a fact that when we released the album, there were certain people who listened to songs and they got very emotional, that they felt almost connected to the lyrics themselves, and the solos made them cry and stuff, and that was lovely. And then you have the people who listen to Vultures, and they'd say, "Oh, we play that every day in the car because it makes us all pumped and everything to go to a gig," and etc.
We're also reposting loads of people that bought the CD, took a
Oh,
picture,
yes.
and posted on their Facebook, and we're like reposting on our.
Yeah, because we made it into
our
golden
own page.
discs. Our album is on sale in I think about 4 or 5 golden discs. Is it?
Yeah, the ones in Dublin.
All the Dublin
Yeah,
golden
sorry.
discs.
Yeah.
And basically people that we don't know and other people that we know maybe seen once or twice have gone into the store, bought the album and taken a picture with it and then uploaded it to their Instagram, their Facebook. We've shared it on our Facebook, and we've got more in the, like, people wearing our merch, like hats and stuff, and we honestly, the support has been ridiculous and it's been appreciated so much. And it's this stuff that's come out of that, which we haven't released yet, info and gigs and contacts we've made out of all of this that we haven't actually released to the public yet. But that's why summer and the end of this year is going to be a lot of interesting things for us. So it's been received very well, is what I would say.
Excellent. It's like asking you about children, but do you have favourite tracks on the album?
Oh, definitely. We
Yeah.
all do. Go on, Chris.
It's hard to pick. There's a few, because I love this kind of soulful, like, aura that Cheating Woman has, but like Armies Rising and Vultures is just so in your face. Like, I suppose Armies Rising, I just love the harmony stuff on that. It's
Kinda
just
sexy.
Yeah, it is a bit lit. So that would probably be my big one on that album, just because it's just, I'm playing it live, just has so much balls. You're just like, you know.
Plus, it's just like, it's just so second. It's probably the most second nature song on the whole album, really, isn't it? It's me and Chris go out into the crowd playing that songs while doing backflips and everything.
Licking people and just if you want a good licking, go to the front of our gigs.
Dara, what's yours?
Song wise on the album, it's probably hands down as the title track of the album. What will be? I just think it's fucking. It's the most Elevation Falls song on the album for me, personally.
I love that.
And it just has a fucking. If you're willing to just sit down and give it a chance and listen to it, it has a crazy message that you're not going to be able to answer in one night. You're going to have to spend a long time trying to get the answer, which I like.
Yeah, I actually think that that's the best song as well. Because you probably will go for.
Fuck, did I answer wrong?
You
Did
did.
You know, it's
I take it back.
You know, it's not scripted now.
Because you
is it?
probably go for the heavy ones at first, like you think that they are the best ones, but after a while, after you start digesting the album, you're like, well, that one's actually better. You know, after a while, after all these heavy riffs and all, like they're really good, but after a while, you're like, whoa, that one is actually stronger than.
I don't know. You see, I like all of the songs because they are all a different part of this band. Personally, though, my favorites would be, the first song I always go to play. If somebody says, "Can I hear your band?" I always put Vultures on. I just always do. I always go to Vultures first, and then if I want to show them more of a softer side of us, I'd probably go to Dream of Me, which I absolutely love because it's a piano song, and I played the piano on that, so I really like that. But one of the kind of hidden tracks that when we wrote, but I absolutely love the song now, Zombie. It's one of those kind of weird sounding ones, but I really like it. And I got my debut acoustic guitar at the start of the song, which is great.
Yeah.
I threw it near Fanny Fit in the middle of the studio where I was just absolutely breaking down because I had to play this picking thing at the start. And he was there in the studio. Hey, calm down, Hazer. I was like, I can't. My hand's cramping up. I feel like I'm gonna explode. It was not a good day for me, but we got it in the end.
No, I'm Spanish because my English is not very well, but I think I like Vultures stand down for the album. The album is more completely. It's amazing album. When I listen the first at the first moment when I prepared my first gig with Elevation Falls, I'm flipping for the strong.
The whole album, you really.
Yeah,
enjoyed
the whole album. Yeah, it's amazing album. But I think I like Vultures. I like Stand Down. I like all the album. But my favorite.
He likes the drum songs.
You like those two heavy
Yeah.
songs. You got all the,
Yeah, it's
you got all the
more-
sexy drums.
Yeah,
man, that's why.
it's amazing drums. The drum parts it's really funny playing in the gigs.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gabriel, for recording the drums.
That's how this happens.
Actually, that's the great thing about this band.
We don't
is that
discuss it.
We're multilingual now, so like you can literally have Gabriel and Alex having a conversation in Spanish now.
And then
So-
me
Yeah,
and
when
Chris,
he got here, we're actually speaking Spanish.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then me and Chris will just be speaking fluent Irish, like, you know what I mean? All the category
Right.
Dulga G and letters.
Let's be honest, I struggle with English.
That's true.
I'm thinking of moving on to sign language.
Anyway, go on. We're gonna go off topic again.
No, I think that's it. I think we're near the end. All I need now is you want to pimp the gig on the 14th.
Yeah,
you
well,
want
okay.
to pimp
It's
all
shy,
your,
don't go to it.
your
So-
Facebook, your Instagram, your website, anywhere people can spend money on you. Let us know where.
Alright,
21st.
so the 14th of July we're playing in Fibbers upstairs supporting the Red Hot Coffee Peppers. Then, shut up. And then on the 21st of July we are playing in Sean Oaks in Donegal and we're headlining that gig. So they're the two that are coming up in July, which are going to be really fun. We're really excited because we're going to probably be playing a new song. A brand new song we're going to be
We're probably
playing.
practicing it tonight.
We're going to be practicing it tonight because
We
we
did
need
an
to.
album and then bam, new song.
Yeah,
What of
exactly.
it?
We'll
Bitches.
follow it up. We'll follow up. We might have some juicy cover. They're the two. Now you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. I run the Instagram for Elevation Falls, and then we have our Facebook, which has updates constantly on it as well.
And if you want to be cheeky, you can follow the individual members of Elevation Falls. Get a
Exactly.
bit of a more of an insight into everyone's.
Yeah.
So I'll go first with my name.
Yeah, go on.
My name is Dara Shields Guitar.
Greco Dublin, double C.
My name is Alex for drums.
Christopher Richard Young.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
Suck my ditties.
Oh,
.org.
and I'm just Hazel Jade Rogers, so it's easy enough. But you can see what it's like to be behind the scenes with the band and stuff. So it's kind of. We also have our website, which is elevationfalls.com, that has a list of every single show that we've got booked so far. Maybe a few that haven't been put up yet because
And
we're
some
being
pictures
sneaky.
of me.
Yeah, we might be waiting for some very important.
We might be waiting for some extremely important news. So these are the actual gigs that we've got on our website at the moment. It's August 3rd in the Prosperous Music Festival. That's in Prosperous in Kildare. We have August...
Prosperous.
Yeah, it really in Prosperous. We have August 12th, and that's in McCrum's Rocking Barbecue. That's up in Armagh.
Yeah, that's lit.
That is lit. We played that the past 2 years running, and I think it's so fun.
lit too.
It's so cool.
And I'll be making a return for the first time in 2 years. So.
Right, so August 19th, we're doing the birthday party for Philo in the Bloody Streaming Host. We do that nearly every year as well. That's always fun because we celebrate Phil in it, who's obviously a big influence on the band. You can hear that in
Never
Arms
heard of
Rising.
him.
Who's he?
Oh, and he's got a rose on.
Oh,
Black Rose.
Black
Dum,
Rose.
dum, dum, dum.
There
We'll
you
play
go.
that tonight.
Actually,
Very
it's
nice.
the same colour as maybe my rose.
But we've got loads of other gigs, and as I said, we have more special announcements that are going to be coming up soon. We can't release them yet,
See,
though.
people
So
say
elevationfalls.com.
And
Yes.
Facebook.
And
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram. You've
Yeah.
got all of our Instagrams as well. But we're very interactive on all of
Google
that.
it, bro.
And me and Chris will offer free guitar lessons.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might not be like really good.
Twisting your mind and smashing your dreams.
Oh, metal. That's fucking metal face.
Hey, what's up? This is Ice-T, and you're listening to the Mosh Pit with Damien on 103.2 Dublin City FM. Alright? I hope you got that bit.